Guys, I'm not really that excited about the Suzuki GSX-8S. Saw this news literally today. This bike came out. You guys are gonna see this video a little bit later, but I wanted to get my thoughts together before making a video. And I just got to thinking about this mass parallel twin homogenization that's happening, and I just feel like Suzuki's just made a little me too motorcycle, and I've got a lot to say about it. And apparently you want to hear me talk about it because I've gotten a lot of DMs about this motorcycle. So today we're gonna do my opinion on this news of the GSX-8S. Let's get into it. So I've got my phone here with me because I'm not Rain Man, I can't remember all the stats here, and let's talk about the styling on the GSX-8S first. Hard name to say on that motorcycle. So it kind of looks like a Grom and an MT-07 had a little bit of a lusty night in a motel in the middle of Japan, because it is quite Transformer-y, quite angular, and you know, it's got this similar little exposed subframe thing that all these 700-ish cc naked bikes are doing now. And it kind of feels like with the MT-07, the Honda Hornet, the GSX-8S, I'm kind of just waiting for Kawasaki to jump into, and then we're just gonna have a new age UJM pretty much. That's kind of how I'm seeing this new version of the 2020s parallel twin motorcycle. This is basically just a Japanese UJM, but kind of 60 years later. So styling wise, I think it's fine. It's really not my preferred bag. I think this motorcycle looks striking. It looks like a Suzuki, which is cool. It's got that typical Suzuki blue. It's got some very distinct styling references from the GSX S1000, kind of keeping in line with that whole lineage of motorcycles. But now the SV650 kind of feels out of place. And a lot of you are asking, yeah, what's gonna happen to the SV650? And truthfully, I don't know. Nobody does. The SV is still going to be sold for the next year, but I do think that Suzuki is probably going to start phasing that engine and that motorcycle out, which is a damn shame because it was the one kind of different sort of entry-level motorcycle in the category. It was a smaller V-twin that you could get, you could still really enjoy, as opposed to these new parallel twins. So let's look over some of the specs on the GSX-S8 or the GSX-8S. It's a hard motorcycle name to say. So Suzuki says it's a fully new, thoroughly modern street fighter design that sets a trend for an exciting new generation of Suzuki motorcycles ready to carry the brand into the future. So folks, we've finally moved past bold new graphics. We are now doing bold new motorcycles. That is exciting from Suzuki. It's a new compact 776cc parallel twin using a 270-degree crank. I really thought that Suzuki was just gonna come out and just be like, screw it, it's a 180-degree crank, whatever. But they put a 270 in it, so it's gonna have a little bit more pizzazz and zest to it. People are quoting about 80-ish horsepower for this thing, which is gonna be really interesting because the MT-07 makes about 75 horsepower, and then the GSX-8S is gonna make about 80, and then the new Honda Hornet's gonna make about 90 from what I understand. So it's gonna be a nice broad spectrum of power for these Japanese machines and kind of choose your flavors, so to speak. You guys will notice as we get into this video that it is going to be a little bit more of an advanced motorcycle than something like the MT-07. It also features this exclusive cross balancer system for smooth operation, Suzuki says. So that's a new thing that they're putting on their production motorcycles. That's actually a balancer shaft at 90 degree for each of the crank. So that's hopefully going to make it a bit smoother, a bit nicer to ride. Suzuki's really touting this as their smooth operator kind of motorcycle. So I did want to point out that the new GSX-8S comes with a TFT display. That's kind of a new thing that Suzuki are doing, and it looks great. It's a nice, crisp readout. It's not some jank looking thing. It's nice for Suzuki to join the realm of everybody else doing TFT displays, and now Yamaha's MT-07 is starting to look a little long in the tooth compared to this competition. If Yamaha's not careful, Suzuki and Honda are going to eat the MT-07's lunch, which can happen. As many of the Yamaha simps out there are quick to tell me that that's not going to happen, it can happen very easily. I will want to point out that this motorcycle doesn't feature fully adjustable suspension, so it's not exactly a KTM 890 Street 77765 competitor in my opinion. I think this motorcycle slotting more as like an MT-07 Plus type of thing. It's like manufacturers are finding these laser thin niches to try to slot themselves into because they don't want to compete with anybody else nowadays. But now you've got two of these bikes, the Hornet and the GSX-8S, right in this kind of like MT-07 Plus area, the 750-ish cc naked motorcycle. Whereas the Street Triple 765 and the Duke 890 and those kind of motorcycles, the MT-09, Z900, those are quite a bit faster, quite a bit more premium, a little bit sharper handling. I think this is going to be much more of your bog standard street commuter bike. The GSX-8S is also going to feature a lot of electronics, a bidirectional quick shifter, which is a great feature for Suzuki to put on this more entry-level motorcycle, some traction control, a bunch of little electronic features like an easy start system that they claim on the website is super, super cool. But it looks like a great update for Suzuki, and I honestly think if Suzuki, I don't know how it's going to shake out with the emissions regulations, but I do think that them keeping the SV650 as their entry-level motorcycle makes a lot of sense. If ever there was a time, now is when they should make a GSX-4S instead of an 8S and make this exact looking motorcycle, but with a 400cc parallel twin, and start eating up some of the Z400's lunch as well. They've got the perfect opportunity to do it, especially because their GSX 250 is woefully outdated and woefully slow. That motorcycle needs to be put out to the back and shot in the head, in my opinion. So I think that's what Suzuki should do. They should have a GSX 4S as kind of their entry level. The SV650 is probably going to go the way of the dinosaur, unfortunately, but if it doesn't, it would be great to keep it there as a stepping stone to get to the GSX 1000. But now with the GSX 8S, it's probably going to slot right there in the middle. And then you've got the GSX 1000, and that's your kind of 3-bike stepping stone. It's not a kind of 4-bike stepping stone like Yamaha has with the MT-03, 7, 9, and 10. It's a little bit different, but you don't need 4 motorcycles to have riders transition to. I think 3 is a great stepping stone because Suzuki doesn't really have a great entry-level motorcycle in that 400cc displacement other than the DRZ 400, which, let's be honest, is not really that beginner sport bike option that a lot of people are flocking to who are looking to get R3s, Ninja 400s, or Z400s as well. So I'm really excited that Suzuki made a new motorcycle, but again, kind of to the first point that I made in the video, I am sad that everybody is just coalescing around this same thing. I don't really see any differentiation in this market. It just feels like everybody's trying to race to the same segment. Nobody's trying to do anything different other than Kawasaki. If Kawasaki does release a ZX-4R eventually, that's going to be pretty unique. If Yamaha does launch the Yamaha R9, that's kind of a weird bike that will probably sell really well, and that's what I like to see. Or bikes like the Moto Guzzi V100 Mandello. I want to see more interesting, well thought out motorcycles, and I just feel like the GSX-8S is just a bit of Suzuki just yeeting their hat into the ring and just seeing what sticks. Mercifully, Suzuki makes a great motorcycle, and so this is not going to sell you something that is just like, you know, ill thought out or kind of silly or not really a great motorcycle. I guarantee you're going to ride this thing, you're going to really love it, enjoy it. I bet it's going to feel great. I bet with that cross balancer system, it's probably going to be ultra smooth to ride as well. And that might be a nice difference over the Hornet and the MT-07, but I wouldn't be surprised if Yamaha starts cooking up an MT-07 Plus, an MT-08 or something like that. I could really see a world in which Yamaha says, hey, we can sell a $7,700 MT-08 with a TFT display, and that's going to keep up with this new Hornet and the Suzuki. Because one thing Honda's doing really, really smart with the new Hornet is they're pricing it super aggressively, but they're still selling it alongside their CB650. So there's now, again, this hyper niche for 600-ish bikes, 700-ish bikes, 800-ish bikes, and now 900-ish bikes. It's like you have these little tiny segments divided by 100 cc's, which kind of makes KTM's old lineup start to make sense with the 390, 490, 690, 890, 790, 1290, 1090. Like, you just have to make a different bike for every single little different rider. I bet from a manufacturing perspective, that's probably a complete nightmare, but I do think it's going to make sense for the future consumer. Also, in kind of adjacent news to the GSX-8S, they also released the new V-Strom with the same engine and kind of the same thing, but I don't really want to talk about a sport touring / adventure bike on this same video. But What do you guys think about this GSX-8S? Do you think that this is Suzuki finally creating some new motorcycles? Are we going to see a GSX-4S, a new entry-level model from them? Or is Suzuki just going to make this one motorcycle and ride it until the heat death of the universe and probably make so much gross profit on it? And most importantly, will we ever get a Gen 4 Hayabusa that actually is a turbocharged monster like the one we all want? The answer to that is a big fat resounding no. It's kind of sad that Kawasaki is the only one leading the charge on forced induction. They kind of went out there and yeeted it, and now everybody's like, we're not going to go and touch that with a 10-foot pole. But I would love to see some forced induction motorcycles. I would love to see more interesting options. I think back to 2013 when Yamaha debuted the FZ09, and out of nowhere they had a 3-cylinder 847cc naked bike that kind of set the tone for the category, you know? Manufacturers need to do more stuff like that and not this kind of me too that Suzuki's doing with the GSX-8S. I would have loved to have seen a bigger V-twin powered engine from them. I think that would have been super interesting. I would have loved to see something that just kind of thought a little bit outside the box. That's my opinions on the new GSX-8S. You guys let me know what you think down below. And if you want to have more conversations around the GSX-8S, join me over on YammieNoob.co. Join our Discord server. I'm on there every day chatting about motorcycles with people, doing exclusive live streams, and all kinds of fun stuff. Catch you guys in the next one. See you later. Keep watching Yammie Noob!